Breaking news today.
Please subscribe and then check notification box to get all breaking news alerts.
The Quincy Police Department is investigating a disturbing account one woman had at her front door earlier this week. The woman, who is not identifying herself, is saying a man knocked on her door saying her tire had been slashed and she should come outside to check it. The problem is that when the woman thanked him and said she would check it later, the man proceeded to become agitated and more aggressive when she refused to come out at that very moment. When the man left, the woman called the police. By the time the police arrived, the man was long gone, but they did find the woman's tire had indeed been slashed. Police are currently investigating whether the man who knocked on the door was the same person who actually slashed the tires in a failed attempt to get the woman to come out of her home in order to do who knows what to her or her property. Although the woman didn't want to be identified, she did appear on local TV newscasts in order to do what a responsible member of the community would do and warn other residents about what might be happening in their area and tell them not to leave the protection of their homes to check on their cars if anything like this were to happen to them. This is actually a very good warning for any of us. Whenever someone knocks on your door in questionable circumstances, it's always best to just stay inside and call the police. Or if you are fortunate enough to live in a state that doesn't protect the criminal, as California does, get your gun out, and if the perpetrator decides to forcefully enter your home, shoot and let God sort it out. Vayatwa. What is the ideal weapon to use in defending against a home invasion and why? I don't think there is such a thing that applies in all circumstances. If you pose this question on an internet forum about guns or at a sporting goods store, you will find yourself buried under suggestions and advice from people who are clearly very wedded to whatever solution they've come up with for their own personal defense. Some people say a revolver with hollow points, some say a shotgun loaded with bird, others say a shotgun loaded with full power buck, still others say an AR-style rifle with soft tip ammo, etc., etc., etc. The thinking behind all of these suggestions, which, you'll notice, all deal with firearms, varies wildly. Some of it is quite smart, some of it is outlandish. For an example of the kinds of things you're liable to hear, consider this video by James Yeager, who was kind of a nut and was recently in trouble with the press for saying very naughty things about the US government. Yeah. Like I said, he deliberately cultivates a certain aggressive image, and belongs to a very different wing of the pro-gun movement than I do. Still, he touches on some important nuances about using firearms for home defense, so watch the entire video, because it's germane to your question and quite interesting. Firearms shoot bits of metal at extremely high velocity. Those bits of metal will fly right through humans, walls, furniture and cars, and may still have enough energy to kill someone on the other side. Thinking that handling a home invasion is an exercise in criminal psychology could prove lethal. Merely the sound of racking a shotgun or pointing any old gun at someone are not necessarily effective at protecting yourself. Any weapon will do what it is intended to do. If it's got a blade on it, it'll slash. If it's got a point on it, it'll stab. If it shoots bits of metal, it'll shoot bits of metal. The single biggest variable that determines a weapon's effectiveness, then, is the fleshy part attached to it, also known as a human. What all of this tells us is that if you really feel like you have to defend your home from intrusion, you need to consider, among other things, the layout, location and building materials of your house. From which weak points, doors, windows, skylights, etc., intruders are most likely to get into your house. What they are most likely to go after, your TV, your kids, your jewelry box. Where you are most likely to be when they come in, and doing what, I reckon for most people, that would be, in the bedroom, asleep. What weapon you are most adept at wielding. What weapon is most likely to stop, deter or kill the intruder. Your willingness to use that weapon with lethal intent. What weapon presents the least risk to damaging other valuables on your property, your children, your dog, a natural gas tank, the Alexander Calder mobile in your dining room. So if you live in a canvas yurt with your children and pets in a single open space and your cattle grazing right outside, perhaps a shotgun is not a good idea. On the other hand, if you live in a Western-style house with plaster walls and the kids don't sleep close to where you would likely engage an intruder, then perhaps it is. The Navy SEAL Chris Hall noted that he didn't use the same weapon for every different type of tactical situation, so you should have no problem accepting that what may work for your neighbors doesn't necessarily work for you. In general, I would say that the most crucial factor is that you pick a weapon that you are able to use most effectively. Let's talk for a moment about a popular choice for home defense guns, the Mossberg 590A1. It is a 12-gauge, pump-action shotgun with an 18.5 inches barrel that was specifically designed for use by the Marine Corps and police forces in situations where an armed suspect may be encountered in confined spaces. Like all pump-action guns, it is very reliable because it is mechanically very simple and jams can be cleared quickly. It's well-made, accurate, short enough to maneuver around in a small room with, and can be loaded with birdshot, buckshot or slugs, any of which can be extremely lethal at close range. Many people pick a weapon like this for home defense because on the whole it's a very effective gun for that purpose. But it does have its downsides. For one thing, it's rather heavy as shotguns go, so someone who isn't very strong or has poor stamina might want to pick something else. Ammunition for such guns is also fairly expensive, around $1 per round in California. For anyone who is constrained by budgetary realities, as virtually everyone is, the practical ramification of this is likely to be that they don't spend much time practicing how to use it, which obviously has a deleterious effect on its effectiveness in a dangerous situation. And do not for a second make the mistake of thinking that shotguns don't need skill to use. It is very easy to miss with the shotgun, as Yeager pointedly notes in his video. Furthermore, as I've already pointed out, shotguns are extremely powerful and some types of ammo, like slugs and certain types of buckshot, risk going through walls and hitting things you wouldn't like to hit. And lastly, most tactical shotguns can carry anywhere from 5.9 rounds, which is far less than, say, a Glock handgun, some of which can carry 17 rounds, or an AR-15 type rifle, which can carry 30 rounds. For a number of reasons that I won't get into here, magazine capacity is not nearly as important an advantage as the press makes it out to be, as they say in the TV show Breaking Bad. If you're really in such a desperate situation that firing 5 or 6 shots won't get you out of trouble, you've got bigger issues. Still, if you are an infrequent shooter who isn't very confident, or your home happens to be targeted by a fool who thinks it's clever to count an opponent's shots then charge, well, then magazine capacity is another limitation of a shotgun. So what's the final read-through from this long, meandering non-answer? Go try out lots of different things. Do some reading online, talk to people at gun shops or shooting ranges, ask stupid questions. There's a frequent stereotype of novices being intimidated about asking questions when they first visit gun shops, lest they appear silly in front of the tactical assholes throwing around jargon and talking the sales attendants ear off about their impressive gun arsenals. Do not be intimidated by these people. If your home situation is dangerous enough that it warrants buying weaponry to defend yourself and your property, then you've got one hell of a more legitimate reason to be asking questions than those other people. Many gun ranges will rent guns to people, provided they can demonstrate basic safety skills, so rent a bunch of different weapons and try your hand at operating them. It's by shooting a wide variety of things that you'll eventually realize that guns, like cars, are each very different. They feel different, they sound different, some make you brim with confidence in your own shooting skill and steadiness, while others make you hitch in apprehension. You want to end up staking your safety on whatever you are most capable with. Please share if you agree every homeowner should be armed. Follow us on Facebook at Freedom Daily.